In Okaloosa County District Court, 72-year-old Billy Allen is at the center of a violent eviction dispute. Using a walker and suffering heart issues, Mr. Allen is accused of opening fire after being forcefully evicted without a court order. Gunshots, legal twists, and a dramatic bond decision await in this real-life legal showdown.
Afternoon, Your Honor. Frustrated. I waited an hour and a half to see Mr. Allen this morning, and they weren't able to get him out to me. So I had to meet with him 5 minutes ago. If we can call that one first, I'd appreciate it. I've got witnesses here, some of at least one of whom's got to pick up kids later.
The other two. Bill and Crook.
All right. Make sure we're good.
Judge, Mr. Allen is recovering from a gunshot wound. With the court's permission, I'd like to let him sit at the counsel table with me.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you, sir. All right, sir, come around and have a seat in this chair over here. I think you're going to find it a bit more comfortable.
Get this thing out of me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, just to make the announcement, this is 2025 CF724, State of Florida versus Billy Lee Allen, who is present with his lawyer, Mr. Williams. Who's handling this for the state?
Your Honor, I am Ashley Herndon on behalf of the state of Florida, and we are moving for pretrial detention in this matter.
Are you ready to go forward with that today, Mr. Williams?
Yes, Your Honor.
I know you stated you had some issues in getting a chance to speak to Mr. Allen today. Do you need some more time before we go forward with the pretrial detention hearing?
Judge, I'm more concerned about the availability of our witnesses.
Okay.
And so I'd like to go ahead and proceed forward. I don't see a circumstance where Mr. Allen would be agreeing to pretrial detention, and any delay would just delay a ruling by the court.
All right. I've reviewed the motion that's been filed for, to the state, just as a little bit of, I guess, inside baseball. I signed the warrant for the search of the house and the arrest on Saturday when I was on duty. So I'm a little familiar with the facts from reading that, just to kind of put that out there so everyone knows I've already read those things. And then obviously I've read the motion and papers that are already in the file. But
yes,
I like to put that out there just so everyone knows that I've read things that may not be in the file, which would include those affidavits. All right, Ms. Herndon, how would you like to proceed?
Your Honor, I would call my first witness, who is going to be Melissa Anthony.
All right, Ms. Anthony. Swear or affirm to testify about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Take a seat there. Speak into the microphone so we can all hear you. Okay. All right, your witnesses.
Would you please state your name for the record?
Melissa Anthony,
And Miss Anthony, where do you currently reside, just the city and state?
Crestview, Florida.
Okay. I want to turn your attention back to April 5th, which I believe was last week, involving an incident at 4228 Baton Road. Do you recognize that address?
Yes.
And what is that address?
My dad passed away. That is the home he left me.
Is that located in Crestview?
Yes.
Were you over at the residence in the evening hours on April 5th?
Yes.
And can you just tell us briefly, was there an incident involving Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Can you just kind of start with just generally, we're more concerned with the incident involving the alleged crime, but if you can start generally with the evening, why you all were over there and what happened.
We had an agreement with Billy 2 months prior that I would like him to leave. He agreed. He just had to find a place. Upon that evening, he informed us that we would have to evict him, which kind of started a trickling effect. So we started removing items from the house so we can start the whole process of selling the things and cleaning up the place. And the cops got called upon that, told us our rights. About an hour and a half after the cops left the first time, we went inside and we had our belongings in there. We gathered them, and shortly after, Jeremy walked outside, and then Billy went to his room.
So I'm going to stop you just for a second so that
Okay.
we're all on the same page with names. You said Jeremy. Who is Jeremy?
Jeremy is the my partner, the guy that shot the gun,
And what is Jeremy's last name?
Richardson.
So you said that Jeremy went outside and that Billy went into his room.
Yes.
What happened then?
Upon exiting his room, I noticed he had a gun. I asked him to put the gun away. At that time, I had pulled out the phone to record just in case anything happened. Jeremy walked in the house and Billy entered the room that he entered and shot at him. Then followed to the door. I went into the bathroom because I had no other place to go. And then I heard shots fired.
Let me stop you there. Could you just generally describe the gun that you said Billy had?
I'm not familiar with guns.
And I mean
Just a
short gun,
black
long gun?
pistol.
Okay.
Black pistol.
Did he ever point the gun at you?
No.
And what room was Jeremy in? I believe you said that Jeremy walked in. I just want to make sure that I'm clear and that I followed. Where did Billy shoot at Jeremy? Where was Jeremy at that time?
The back living room.
And did you see that shot fired?
Yes.
After that shot was fired, what did you do?
I turned around and ran into the bathroom.
Do you recall how many shots were fired?
I know the one Billy shot, and then when I went in the bathroom, I heard 4 more shots.
Miss Anthony, can you identify the individual in the courtroom that fired those shots today?
Yes.
And could you describe an article of his clothing, point to him, just generally?
Which one?
The individual that fired the gun.
Yes, he's in the brown shirt.
Your
Or
Honor,
the other one.
I'm sorry.
They both shotguns, so I'm sorry.
I'm talking about, you described Billy as shooting a gun, correct?
Can I
Yes.
stop you for a minute, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor? Are other witnesses in the room? Does anyone want to invoke the rule at this time?
Judge, I'm fine.
Up to y'all. Okay.
I'm sorry, just so that we're clear. Can you point out to the individual Billy that you described that fired the gun?
Yeah.
Your Honor, if the record could reflect that she's identified the defendant.
Records
No
should
objection.
reflect.
Let me ask you a question, Ms. Norton. You said that that there was another individual that fired. Were you able to see that, or is that based on what you were told?
What I was told.
Okay, so I'm not going to go into asking about that, but there were multiple gunshots fired. Was Mr. Allen also shot in this episode that you are speaking about?
I didn't witness it with my eyes, but
Okay.
yes.
When you came out, did you come out of the bathroom at some point?
Yes.
Okay, when you came out, who was there?
I ran straight out the door that was adjacent, and I didn't look around. I just ran outside.
Did you dial 911 or contact law enforcement?
I tried. The service was bad. My daughter, she called 911 for me
Okay. And where was she located during this?
in the RV
Is
outside
that
the home. Yes.
okay?
in the
Outside
same
the home.
address.
I don't have any other questions of this witness, Your Honor.
All right, your witness, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm sorry. What was the name of the person that you called that was in the RV?
Kalia Anthony,
Leah Anthony. And who is she?
my daughter,
How old is she?
12.
Okay. Did you call 911 at all?
I did.
All righty. Now, you said you don't really know much about guns. Let me ask you this. The gun that you say that Billy had, what color was it? Was it silver or was
Black.
it black?
Black.
Okay. Do you know the difference between a revolver and a pistol?
Yes.
All right. Was it a pistol or a revolver?
A pistol.
Okay. Did you happen to see the gun that your partner had?
No.
Have you ever seen him with a gun?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how many guns he has?
Maybe 4, not an exact number.
Okay. Now, did you leave out any sort of physical altercation or threats that occurred earlier before the police came out?
Where Billy pulled out a knife was the only threat.
Yeah. But let's talk about what was going on when Billy pulled out that knife, right? There'd been an argument, and Billy had said that you'd have to evict him, right? And you understand, now, Billy'd been living there with your father prior to your father's death, correct?
Correct.
And how long had he been living there?
10 months since my dad passed.
Okay. And there was some discussion about that Mr. Richardson would not be allowed to put hands on Billy, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Richardson's solution to that conundrum was to threaten to and attempt to pick up the wheelchair so that he could throw the wheelchair with Billy in it out the doorway, correct?
It wasn't a wheelchair. It was a recliner, but yes.
Okay. Do you know how old Billy is?
71 is what they said, but I
So
think
over
he's
65?
72.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And do you know whether or not he was in good health?
No.
Do you have any opinion? Let me ask you this. Is the house off grade?
What does that mean?
Is it up on, do you have to go up steps to get in the house?
Yes.
Okay. And how far up the steps? I mean, are they a foot off, 2 feet off, 3 feet off? What?
About 3 steps.
Okay.
5.
Do you have an opinion on whether or not that would hurt Billy to be thrown? I'll withdraw it, Judge. So it would be fair to say that there was some demonstration of physical or threat of physical violence towards Billy made by Mr. Richardson during that earlier scene.
Hold
wouldn't say it was a
on
threat
a second.
towards Billy.
Mr. Richardson, I need you to stop shaking your head or nodding your head. I don't think you're trying to indicate an answer to the witness, but if it happens again, I'm going to have you go in the hallway. Finish your answer, man.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I asked you about a threat of physical violence by Mr. Richardson towards Billy during that earlier incident.
Not towards Billy, but just removing the chair from the house.
All right. So removing the chair by throwing it out of the house with Billy in it didn't seem like a potentially violent act to you. Is that your testimony under oath today?
I guess not.
I'm sorry?
No, sir.
That's not your testimony under oath.
I guess it is violent
Okay.
towards him.
How old is Mr. Richardson?
36.
All right. So Billy's roughly twice his age, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you recall anyone else showing up at the house?
When the cops came the first time, Sheila and another gentleman came. But other than that, no.
You don't recall anybody else being there?
After the cops the first time, can you be more specific?
Anybody else coming to check on Billy?
It was Sheila and the gentleman she brought with him.
Would that be Johnny Peters?
I'm not sure of his name.
Do you recall any telephone conversations taking place during the course of this initial argument?
Yes, I seen him make a phone call.
Do you know who was on the other line of that phone?
No. Maybe his sister.
I don't have any further questions at this time, Judge.
Can you redirect, Ms. Herndon?
Just briefly. Ms. Anthony, and talking about the prior incident regarding the removal of the chair, did you ever observe Mr. Richardson touch Billy Allen?
No, ma'am.
Did he physically move that chair from its location with Mr. Allen in it?
No.
Those are my questions.
Ma'am, you can take your seat back out in the audience. Thank you. Next witness, Ms. Herndon.
Next, we would call Jeremy Richardson.
All right, Mr. Richardson. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? The whole truth and nothing but the truth? Take a seat. Make sure you speak into the microphone. Go ahead, ma'am.
Would you please state your name for the record?
Jeremy Richardson,
And where do you currently reside, Mr. Richardson?
152 Palmetto Drive, Crestview, Florida.
I want to turn your attention back to April 5th. Were you over at a residence that is located in Crestview? I'm sorry, yes, in Crestview at 4228 Baton Road.
Yes, ma'am.
And who were you at that residence with on April 5th?
With my partner, Melissa Anthony.
Was there anyone else that was with you going to that residence?
Kalia Anthony.
And who is that?
That's my partner's daughter.
How old is she?
She's 12.
During the, I guess, late afternoon hours on that date, was there an incident involving you and Billy Allen in the house? And I'm going to just start at the beginning and go kind of contemporaneously through. Was there an incident earlier in the evening with Mr. Allen?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that about?
It was for him to be evicted.
During that incident, obviously you have heard what was testified to. Did you make any threats to Mr. Allen about removing him from the house?
I did not to him. I said the chair.
Did you physically move the chair from the location it was at?
No, ma'am.
Did you put your hands on Mr. Allen?
No, ma'am.
During that incident, did you observe any reaction from Mr. Allen to that statement about you removing the chair?
He pulled a knife.
Where did he pull the knife from?
I believe the dresser or nightstand table that was beside him.
What did you do after that?
I stayed back and started to argue with him.
After this argument, was law enforcement called or did they arrive on the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
Was anything done regarding anybody being removed from the house, anybody arrested at that time?
No, ma'am.
After they left, at some point, did the situation change?
What do you mean by change?
After law enforcement left, let me strike that. Did you and Melissa remain at the residence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. During the course of the nighttime hours, was there another incident with Billy Allen?
Yes, ma'am, later on.
Okay. And what happened during that incident later on?
That was described earlier. He ended up pulling a gun and firing it at me.
So I want to kind of walk you through the exact sequence of events that occurred. Where were you when this happened? When he pulled the gun?
I was coming in the back door.
And where was Mr. Allen?
He was in the living room.
Okay. Were you able to see him directly?
When I came around the corner, yes.
Okay. And what did you see when you came around the corner?
He had a gun about head level, pointing it, waiting seemed like for me to come through the doorway.
What happened then?
When I entered the back room or the room, he ended up pointing it at me and I ran.
Were you afraid when he pointed the gun?
Yes, ma'am, for my life.
What happened next?
He then tried to chase me out the back door. As soon as I got out the back door and he come around the corner, he fired a shot.
Do you recall how many shots were fired? Was it one?
The first one was one, yes.
Okay. What happened then?
I was running and I stopped because I didn't want him to come back through, and there was a window there that he could see out. So I kept running. I looked back and he was pointing the weapon out the back door. And that's when I fired rounds, because if I didn't, he was going to shoot me and kill me.
So let me ask you specifically about that. Did you have a gun when you initially went into the house that second time?
Yes, ma'am.
On your person?
Yes, ma'am. It was in my pocket.
Why did you have a gun in your pocket?
I feared for my life.
Where did that gun come from?
It came out of my truck.
And when did you retrieve it from your truck?
When I had went outside earlier.
Earlier, meaning when the police were there? When did you retrieve it?
After they had left, I went out to the truck, and when I came back, I had it in my pocket.
How many total shots did Mr. Allen fire at you?
I believe it was upwards of 2 or more.
Okay. And at what point did you fire your firearm?
After the first round, and I saw the gun poking out while I was running away.
And did you shoot Mr. Allen?
I didn't know at the time, no.
How many shots did you fire?
I fired 4.
Let me ask you, where was Miss Anthony during this?
Trapped in the bathroom.
Did you ever see Mr. Allen point the gun at Miss Anthony?
No, ma'am.
Those are my questions for Mr. Richardson.
Mr. Williams-Cross.
Yes, Your Honor. Sir, what is your middle name?
Charles,
And what is your date of birth?
5/10/89.
Now, you indicated that you didn't touch Mr. Allen.
No, sir.
He was sitting in a chair.
Yes, sir.
And isn't it a fact that when you were told that you could not touch him, that's when you suggested that you just pick up the chair that he's in, and that way you wouldn't be touching him, you'd just be throwing the chair with him in it out the door?
I didn't threaten to throw it out with him. I said, take it out the room.
Had you been told at that point that you'd have to go through an eviction process, or actually not you, but rather the previous witness?
The cops hadn't been there yet before that.
Now, you indicated that he was standing in the doorway and that you were outside and that you fired shots to protect yourself.
Yes, sir.
And so he was facing you with a gun when you fired those shots, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know where your bullet wound up?
No, sir.
And what kind of gun were you using?
A 38 special.
Revolver?
Yes, sir.
What kind of rounds did you have in it? 38 plus Ps? What?
It was a 38 hollow point special.
Had you made any other threats towards Mr. Allen that night prior to? Well, let me ask you this first. When you made the initial comment about throwing the chair or taking the chair out with him in it, did you have the gun on you then?
No, sir.
Did you have the gun on you when law enforcement showed up the first time?
No, sir.
So you armed yourself after y'all had been told that you'd have to go through an eviction process.
Yes, sir.
Was it your intention when you armed yourself to threaten or intimidate Mr. Allen to keep you from having to go through the eviction process?
No, sir. It was for my protection and my family's.
Now, when you initially took the stand, you said that you were there to evict him. You did not have an order of eviction from a judge, did you?
No, but we had been there, had already gave a warning 2 months, and then he said that.
Okay. And so you were of the opinion that as long as you, quote, warned him, that you didn't have to get an order of eviction if he chose to stay.
No, sir.
You could just pick him up and put him out.
No, sir. That was my partner's furniture is why I was trying to get the furniture out. But the eviction, we knew that we would have to go through the process.
Now, how tall are you and how much do you weigh?
I'm 5'10" and 180 pounds.
And you acknowledge that you're half the age of
Yes,
this
sir.
gentleman. And it's your testimony here today that you're afraid of him.
Yes, sir.
I don't have anything further, Judge.
You redirect. All right, you can take your seat, sir. Thank you. Other witnesses?
Those are the state's witnesses.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, Judge. Let me first call Sheila Hahn.
What's the last name?
I believe it's Hahn. I'll get her to spell it when she gets on the stand, Judge.
I do.
Take a seat there, please. Make sure you speak into that microphone for us. Your witness, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Ma'am, would you please state your name for the record and spell both your first and your last name? I have a friend that used to spell hers Shelia.
Okay, it's Sheila and Han, Hahn.
All righty. Ms. Hahn, let me ask you something. Do you know Billy Allen?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And how long have you known Mr. Allen?
All my life.
All righty. Do you find Mr. Allen to be a violent, dangerous person?
No.
Well, Joe, she testified that she'd known him all her life.
And then you're going into character evidence.
Well, I'll wait until we get to the question of bond if the court doesn't impose PTD, and then I'll ask her again. All right. Were you present for any of the events that occurred back on the 5th?
I was for the 4th, yes.
Or the 4th, rather. All right. So tell us how you got involved and what you saw and heard.
I also lived there with Billy. I took care of Billy. Melissa had asked me to move in there to do that. I had went over there to check on Billy because I was unable to get in contact with him by phone.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Why do you said Melissa had asked you to look after Billy. Why does Billy need you to look after him?
He has heart problems, and I've had to pick him up. His oxygen level goes down. She's been with me when I've called the ambulance to come get him. And I've also been by myself when I've had to call the ambulance to come get him because of his oxygen level dropping.
Okay. All right. So you described that you had not heard or seen him in 3 days or so.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what happened when you got over to that location?
When I got over there, Jeremy comes running in the door. He brings in Melissa's daughter to sit on the couch. And he starts hollering at me, "Where the fuck is Paul's clothes at?" I said, "Melissa told me to get rid of them." "No, fuck, she didn't, you lying bitch. I'm pissing go get her." Out the door he went to go get Melissa. Melissa comes in. And then Melissa said, "Yes, I did." And then he's like, "Where's his tools out?" I said, "Why don't you look in the box that's in the closet?" And he said, "Oh, well, where's the rest of the stuff?" I said, "Melissa, me and Billy, after Paul passed, Melissa was in there with me and we filled up 3 black garbage bags of his medicine and dumping it out and everything else that Melissa had told us to get rid of out of that room." And then we walked out and Melissa was like, "Well, what the fuck are you even doing here?" I said, "I come out here to see Billy and my stuff is still here." You know? I said, "You ain't never had enough problem with me coming before." And, well, I want him to fuck up out of here. And Billy said, "Evict me." And that's going to cost me more money, duh. And Jeremy went to go. He said, Melissa was like, "You leaving here tonight one way or another, dead or alive. I don't give a fuck. I hope you have a heart attack. You son of a bitch." And then Jeremy ran up there, grabbed the chair.
I'll interrupt you for just a second. As part of his care, are you familiar with his medical status?
Yes, I am.
Does he have a history of cardiac problems?
Yes, he does.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So anyways, Jeremy bent down to pick up the chair and he moved it. And then
Where was Mr. Allen when he picked up the chair and moved?
Sitting there in the chair.
Same chair?
The same chair. He had the knife in his hand. He told Jeremy, "Do not touch me." And Jeremy's like, "I'm going to take you and the 2 dogs and shove y'all out the fucking door. Is where you fucking going, out there in the fucking yard."
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
And then after that, I got in between him. I started pushing Jeremy. I said, "Jeremy, you're not putting your hands on him. Leave him the fuck alone. Just go. Just go." And I just kept pushing him. And then he was like, no, he's going around me trying to grab the chair, the back of the chair. And I pushed him again. He stopped, pushed him into the dining area. He stood there. Melissa told him to walk outside. And
Now, did Jeremy say anything about getting around this don't touch him instruction and how that the chair fit into that? The look of confusion tells me that if he did, you don't remember it.
no, I don't understand your question.
Oh, okay. Did he say anything about how why he was going to pick the chair up and move the chair with Billy in it?
Because Billy was leaving there that night, whether he wanted to or not,
Okay.
one way or another.
All right. So tell the court what else you saw and heard.
Okay, so we went outside. We tried to talk to him, calm him down,
Tried to
and
talk to
everything. And then
Trying to talk to who, ma'am?
Melissa and Jeremy,
Okay.
put some sense in their head. He's 73. You can't be doing that. Then me and Miss Long left, and me and Stan Peters, his brother-in-law, came back with the law there. The law had told them, because when we came in, Melissa was running around saying, you motherfucker, I'm going to play nigger music till it runs you fucking crazy tonight. Y'all, you're going to be living, you're going to be laying your ass in there on the floor because we're taking out all the furniture. I'm going to be moving in here tomorrow. I'm changing my address to this address and everything. And the law was out there, and the law walked in. I had turned off the music, and the law said, no, the music cannot be playing that loud, and y'all have got to go. Y'all not allowed in this house. Y'all not allowed to remove anything from this house. I'm telling you now, y'all got to go. Y'all got to get an eviction notice.
Okay. Now, when the officer's saying y'all, who is he talking to?
Melissa and Jeremy.
Okay.
And that they was not allowed to take nothing else out of that house till they went and got an eviction notice on him.
All right. Did anybody say anything about probate?
No, I never heard nothing about probate.
Anybody say anything about a personal representative or an inventory of the contents or anything like
No.
that? Okay.
She had wanted us to get rid of everything in the house. And, Paul had just passed, and, it even took me a while to get rid of his clothes because, he was my boyfriend. So
Okay, where are we going with this part, Mr. Williams?
I'm going to see if I can't get us in for a landing judge. Did you see or hear any other acts or threats of violence until the point when you left?
Melissa was outside because they had the table moved out there. And they had also taken Billy's keys from him and would not let him have them until they took the house key off. And they had given them back to him after that. And then the law was still there. Melissa was out there banging her beer on the table going, I'm going to stay out here and raise hell all night long. And I hope the fuck he has a heart attack, but he is leaving here tonight, dead or alive.
All right. Let me ask you, this Mr. Peters that was there with you,
Yes.
have you ever seen his handwriting before?
Yes, sir.
In fact, did he go with you to the public defender's office and provide a statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I provided a copy to the state earlier. Let me show you what I'm going to mark as D1. This has got my highlighting, and as usual, I've highlighted just about everything. But is that Mr. Peters' handwriting?
Yes.
Do you recall him being with him when he wrote that statement?
Yes, sir.
Judge, this is preliminary hearing, so hearsay is admissible by the counsel.
Improper foundation. I don't think the issue is hearsay, but I don't believe that this witness can properly.
It is notarized.
And it may be admissible on other grounds. I don't think it comes in through this way.
I know what Jeremy done.
Ma'am,
Oh.
this is a legal argument right now.
Well, Judge,
I have to review it to see what it is,
however
obviously.
it comes in.
I think this is probably a good time to point out the fact that we're kind of in a transition of how the rule for pretrial detention is changing. The Supreme Court changed that rule about a week ago, but it hasn't. That those changes have not yet come into play. They don't come into play until May 1st. So, based on the current rule of 3.132. C1 states the court may admit relevant evidence and testimony under oath without complying with the rules of evidence. But evidence secured in violation of the United States Constitution or the Constitution of the State of Florida shall not be admissible. A final order of pretrial detention shall not be based exclusively on hearsay. So I understand the state's objection. I think given the rules that are in play as of right now, that I can admit this. It is as far as, well, hold on a second. Yeah, it says under penalties of perjury, I declare that I've read the foregoing statement that the facts stated in it are true. It's signed Johnny Peters and is notarized on April 9th. So I'll admit it into evidence and give it the proper weight.
Thank you, Judge.
You can give me 1 second to read it. I'll point out, I've read this statement. Most of it is about what Mr. Peters says he observed of Mr. Allen when he arrived, and some statements that Mr. Allen had testified to as far as what happened.
Yes.
So it's kind of double hearsay at this point. But again, the rules of evidence don't exactly apply in these circumstances.
All right. Ma'am, when in all of this did you and Mr. Peters leave?
The law was backing out and we was headed out the door to his car. And at that point in time, Jeremy wanted to go jump onto him.
Jeremy went to go jump
onto Mr. Peters, yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Okay. And when you say jump on, what do you mean? Can you be more specific?
Melissa was over there telling me that she was gonna, if I went back over there, I was gonna get my ass kicked because that motherfucker went over there and tried to have her old man arrested by telling them about that he went after Billy.
Are you talking about the incident with the chair?
With the chair thing, yes.
Okay.
Because he had told the law about that, and the law said, well, they have been told they're not allowed back in here. They have to leave, and they're not allowed to take nothing else out of this house.
All right. And so when he was, the way you phrased it was jumping on, was he threatening Mr. Peters with violence?
Yes.
Okay.
He was going to whoop his ass.
Okay. All right. So at that point, did you guys leave?
Yes, I told Stan to get in the car, and Melissa and Jeremy were standing beside one another, and that's when Jeremy was like, just wait till the law leaves, wait till everybody gets out of here. We got our plans.
Okay. Other than during the physical altercation, having a knife in his hand, did you see or hear Billy threaten anybody?
No. He just said, don't touch me.
Okay. All right. I don't have anything further of this witness, Judge.
Ross.
Very briefly. Ms. Hahn, did you read this statement filled out by Johnny Peters?
No.
Surprise you, it doesn't say anything about him being jumped on by Jeremy Richardson in it?
I said that he wanted to go jump onto him.
He went to or
Yes.
did?
No, he went to.
Was there any physical contact between Jeremy Richardson and Mr. Peters?
No, I told Stan to get in the car,
Okay.
but he was threatening
So,
him.
Ms.
Yes.
Hahn, let me just stop you. I'm going to make this real brief. So, when the police were out there and you were present, at no time did the police arrest Miss Anthony or Mr. Richardson.
No, they told them to leave.
So, no one was arrested
No.
at that time. I don't have anything further.
Any redirect, Mr. Williams?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can take your seat, ma'am. Any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I'll call Loretta Long.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to give is the truth?
I do.
Make sure you speak into the microphone. You're a witness.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, please state your name for the record.
Loretta Long.
Ms. Long, what's your relationship to Mr. Allen?
I've known Billy for a long time. We didn't really have a relationship. I would just see him every now and then.
Okay. Were you, did you go out to the address that we've been talking about on the 4th?
I did go to an address with Sheila to check on Billy because she asked me to ride with her. Yes.
Okay. And tell us what you saw and observed while you were there.
We went in, and as soon as we got in, Jeremy came in and he went to a room to the left of the living room, and he got upset because clothes were missing, and he accused Sheila and them and Billy of stealing Paul's clothes. And Sheila told him that Melissa had told her to get rid of them. And he came in with a child, a 10, 11, 12-year-old child. I don't know how old the child was. It was Melissa's daughter. And then he left and went outside, and Melissa came back in with him. And they went into the room. Sheila went into the room. And Melissa told Jeremy that she had told them to get rid of the clothes.
Now, is this something that you were able to overhear?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then he asked, where was the tools? And Sheila said, in that box. I don't know what they were talking about. I couldn't see. I could only hear. And he was changing a doorknob. I could tell that's what he was doing to that room door.
What seemed to be his state of mind? Mr. Richardson.
Mr. Richards was drinking.
Okay. And did he seem to be calm or did he seem to be upset? What?
He was definitely upset.
Okay. Did you see any sort, or was there any discussion about removing Mr. Allen?
Absolutely.
All right. So tell the court about that.
When the conference, whatever was going on in that room, Melissa came out and she told Billy that she wanted him to get out of the house, but in a lot more colorful language. And Billy told her she would have to evict him. And she got really upset. She was just drinking too. I could smell alcohol on both of them. And then Jeremy got upset because he thought Billy had disrespected Melissa. And he came out and addressed that. And he was angry.
When you say address that, did he say?
He said, you will not disrespect my wife.
Okay.
Or girlfriend or whatever they are. I don't know them.
All righty. And what happened then?
He told Billy he was going to pick his old ass up and move him out and throw him out that front door. And Billy said, you better not touch me.
All right. And how did Mr. Richardson respond?
He said, I'm not going to touch you. I'm going to throw the chair out with you and them damn dogs in it right out that front door into the yard.
All righty. So what happened then?
He walked over to the chair and he lifted the chair and he kind of moved it. He definitely moved the chair, not very far, but he picked it up and moved it. And then Billy pulled a knife.
And what happened at that point?
Somebody said he's got a knife, and then it just sort of stopped. And Sheila was shoving Jeremy to move away from Billy in the chair. And then it sort of escalated with Jeremy. I don't know if escalate's the right word, but he went into the dining room and Melissa asked him to go out on the porch.
All right. And did he leave the house?
He did.
Okay. Did
Well,
you
he
see-
left the inside of the house.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yes.
Did you see where he went?
To another room and out a door.
Okay. Did you see once he stepped outside where he went from there?
He stayed on the porch.
Okay. So he did not go to a car at that point?
No, sir.
All right. Did you ever see him go to his car?
No.
Okay. So did you leave when Sheila left?
Oh, yes, I rode with her.
Okay. So up until that point, you didn't see him go to the car where he could have obtained a gun.
Objection leading.
End it up, Mr.
So up until that point, you didn't see him go to his car.
No.
Okay. Now, I think you already told us that you didn't know them.
Correct.
Did you, at any point during this, see Mr. Allen act threatening, other than after the incident with the chair, having a knife, threaten anybody, pull a weapon, pull a gun, anything like that?
And no, I never saw any of that.
Okay.
He never got out of the chair, ever, when I was there.
All right. I don't have anything further, Judge.
Cross concerned.
Miss Long, what time of day was this that you were there?
It was on the 4th, on Friday, April the 4th, and it was around, I don't know really what exact time it was, but it was before dark, and we were there approximately, well, it was after dark when we left. It wasn't very long we were there.
Okay.
It occurred very rapidly and very quickly.
Okay. So would you approximate you were there less than an hour?
An hour, hour and a half, I don't really know. I can't answer that question for sure.
You were not there when law enforcement came.
No, ma'am. On the 4th, I left and went home, and everything else that occurred, I have no knowledge.
Okay. Those are my questions.
No redirect, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Rebuttal, Ms. Herndon?
No, Your Honor.
All right, argument from the state.
Right now, Mr. Allen has been charged with count of aggravated assault with a firearm and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. I anticipate that once charges are formally filed, that the possession of a firearm by a felon will be filed under 1020 life, including a discharge, which would be a 20-year minimum mandatory sentence. You've heard the testimony from Ms. Anthony and Mr. Richardson. Obviously, this started as a landlord-tenant issue. There were some arguments earlier in the day. Law enforcement came out. No one was arrested at that time. Some period of time goes by, and later on in the evening, when they're at the house, Miss Anthony testified that she saw Mr. Allen with a gun. Mr. Richardson comes back from outside around the corner, sees Mr. Allen holding a gun pointed at his head, takes off to run. Mr. Allen fires a shot, and Mr. Richardson fires back, ultimately shooting Mr. Allen. Your Honor, this is a dangerous crime pursuant to Florida statutes. Based on the facts and circumstances of this situation, it is the state's position that Mr. Allen should be detained, that there are no reasonable circumstances that would be able to prevent a danger to the community. Mr. Allen has a significant felony record back from the 70s and 80s, including violent offenses. It appears that the most most recent felony conviction that he had was from approximately 1984 involving resisting with violence. But based on the escalation and the testimony regarding a knife being pulled by Mr. Allen, the shots fired, this is certainly a situation where the individuals could have been killed, and we are asking the court to detain Mr. Allen with no bond.
Williams.
Judge, the standard is whether they're charged with a dangerous crime, whether there's a substantial probability that the defendant committed such crime, and whether the factual circumstances of the crime indicate a disregard for the safety of the community, and that there are no conditions of release reasonably sufficient to protect the community from the risk of physical harm to persons. Now, Judge, what I will say initially is the state brought up that they're likely to seek a 20-year mandatory minimum in the case. Judge, I don't know if that's relevant to the charge or relevant to any of these conditions. What it might be relevant to is whether or not he would have an incentive to flee the jurisdiction of the court, but I don't think we're there yet. And I have information that I'll provide that would suggest that he's not a flight risk in this case. In terms of the factual circumstances, the factual circumstances are that an individual half his age threatened to throw him in the chair that he was in out the door because he had been drinking and was upset at the fact that he was going to have to, comply with the eviction process, which is the law. Even if he'd said he was going to leave, and there's been no corroboration of that, but even if he had told them earlier that he was going to leave, he could at any point say, you know what, no, go ahead and file for eviction. In terms of whether or not there are conditions of release reasonably sufficient to protect the community, he's ambulatory with a walker, Judge. He was the only individual who was shot that night. He's presented here in court with a walker. The state brings out that he had some, quote, violent offenses in the 70s and 80s without any specificity other than a 1984 arrest for resisting arrest without violence. And in 1984, you could pick up a with violence by jerking your hands away from the handcuffs. When the court listens to all the testimony, the only people that were saying anything violent from the beginning were the alleged victims in this case. Mr. Richardson testified that he left and went to go get a gun from the car. Nobody saw him do that. It may be that he did that after Sheila and them had left, but this is a situation with a 72-year-old man who has responded to repeated threats that to a 35-year-old man in good health, that may not seem like very much. Having somebody pick up a chair and toss you out a door may not seem that threatening, but to a 72-year-old heart patient, that's a problem. Somebody who has someone who testified unrebutted that they look after him because his oxygen gets low and he passes out. So, Judge, pretrial detention is not an appropriate response in this case. We're going to ask the court to allow us to have a bond.
Ms. Herndon, anything else?
Your Honor, I think the facts are pretty clear. Individual that shoots at two individuals that are the lawful homeowners of the house, whether there's an eviction process or not, there is no process that allows you to shoot at people based on that. Is absolutely a danger to the community. It is a dangerous offense. There's substantial evidence.
All right. Again, I've said it earlier, but it kind of bears repeating that we're kind of in this no man's land between the changes in the rule, where the rule that's currently exists, 3.132, regarding pretrial detention doesn't exactly jive with the current statute, which is 907.041, as far as what the particular burden is, but I think the statute states that 907-041, I'm getting the right subparagraph, it's 1C, states upon motion by the state attorney, which the state has done in this particular case, the court may order pretrial detention if it finds a substantial probability based on the defendant's past and present patterns of behavior, criteria 903.046, and the relevant factors that any of the following exist. Based on the language that was used by Ms. Herndon during the argument, it would appear that C5 is what the state is particularly arguing, which is, as stated, the defendant poses the threat of harm to the community. The court may so conclude if it finds that the defendant is presently charged with a dangerous crime. Aggravated assault is such a dangerous crime under the statute. That there is a substantial probability that the defendant committed such crime. That the factual circumstances of the crime indicate a disregard for the safety of the community. And that there are no conditions of release reasonably sufficient to protect the community from the risk of physical harm to persons. As far as the facts as I found them to be, there was some argument between the parties. Law enforcement was called. Some people left, at which point there seemingly was a second incident, which involved uncontradicted testimony that Mr. Allen fired a firearm at Mr. Richardson. The testimony by Mr. Richardson was that he was basically walking into the back living room of the home, at which point he saw the gun leveled off at his head. He tried to quickly retreat, at which point he was shot at. And then a second shot was fired from the back door at Mr. Richardson as he was running away. That's not a circumstance where I believe someone is necessarily defending themselves about a situation that happened sometime earlier with intervening law enforcement intervention, I guess is the best way to use that. Use the word twice. This is not a situation where this is all some heated moment that happened over a minute or two. Law enforcement intervened and told people, kind of what they thought was the situation. I haven't heard anything about, what the current status of any probate proceeding or who actually owns the house at this point, other than Mr. Allen lived there. And it seems to be clear that Miss Anthony has some legal ownership rights to that particular home. Whether or not he was being evicted improperly is not something that allows for the use of deadly force. So I believe there is a substantial probability that Mr. Allen has committed the offense for which he's charged currently, which is aggravated assault with a firearm. I also to point out, let's go through the rest of this. The factual circumstances of the crime indicate a disregard for the safety of the community. I would point out that the community doesn't mean necessarily the community as a whole, but people in that community, which can include just the people involved. Mr. Allen is charged with, and I heard evidence today that he fired a gun at Mr. Richardson. I'd also point out that during the course of this incident, other people were involved. We've all seen, unfortunately, the somewhat innocent bystanders of gun violence that often happens in these types of situations, and point out the fact there was testimony about a 12-year-old girl being present in the area when gunshots were being fired out from the door of the home into the yard where she may have still been. So that's certainly a concern about the safety or disregard for the safety of the community. Even if there was some reason that Mr. Allen would have had at that point, again, based on only the facts that I've heard here today, to fire the first shot after Mr. Richardson runs out the door and there's a fire at his back into the open space where a 12-year-old had been at some point during the night, I think is a complete disregard for the safety of the community. And as far as conditions of release reasonably sufficient to protect the community from the risk of the physical harm to persons, I'd like to point out that Mr. Allen is currently charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, meaning he should have never had the gun in the first place. There's already a law saying that you can't have a firearm and then you allegedly use one to fire indiscriminately at somebody as they run away from you. I certainly don't see what conditions I could put into place that would make this a safe situation. So based on that, I'm going to find the state has met their burden for pretrial detention. Mr. Allen will be held in pretrial detention until further order of the court. Obviously, as the rule changes on May 1st, you can certainly ask the court to reconsider that if there's a change in the facts and circumstances that led to this pretrial detention order, but that's the rule of the court at this time. Anything else for Mr. Allen?
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
I'll have the order to you shortly. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
All right, Mr. Allen, I'll come out again and try to see you. Okay?
What case do we have next?
Judge, I'm ready on either of the other two.
Is there a motion filed on both or just on Bell?
We do have witnesses present on that.